Hello and welcome to episode 9 of Sunderland Mind's No Filter podcast. Today we're joined by Jemma Austin, engagement lead at Kooth. Kooth is an online mental health support platform which provides free, safe and anonymous support to young people and adults across the UK. We chat through some of the benefits and key features of the site and how it can be used to manage our own wellbeing. Keep listening to find out more. So today we are joined by Jemma from Kooth. Do you want to introduce yourself?
Yep. Hi, my name's Jemma Austin and I'm from Kooth Digital Health, which is the UK's largest digital mental health provider.
Fabulous. And for our listeners who don't know, what is Kooth? What does the service provide?
Yeah. So Kooth is the UK's largest digital mental health provider. As I mentioned, we support young people and adults right across the country. Our service that we provide is a digital service. So it's an online mental health and emotional wellbeing platform that we offer. And in Sunderland, Kooth.com is available for 10 to 25-year-olds.
Fab, that's great. And what is the sort of ethos behind it? What is the gap that it fills? What does it provide the service users with?
Okay, so there's a bit of a story to this actually. So many years ago when Kooth was designed, the concept was actually designed by a lady called Elaine Bowlesfield. She wanted to design a platform that provided young people with a service that was accessible but also anonymous, as she felt at that time, all those years ago, that there was a lot of stigma for young people when it comes to reaching out for help for your mental health. And she wanted to provide a service that was online, anonymous and safe for young people to use. And that was where the idea came from. Over the years, it has evolved, but it's really about providing young people with that platform that's anonymous, but also something that works alongside them that's very person-centred. And we can find something that really fits in with what their needs are as well. And that's the same for adults as well that now get support from Kooth.
So did it start off with being just a young people's platform and then it evolved to adult as well?
Yeah. So at the moment in Sunderland, it is just available for 10 to 25-year-olds. But yes, you're right. It did start off primarily just for young people, but now we're starting to support adults, which is a very new development in the last few years.
Definitely, that's fab. So what are sort of the features? What can people get from it? What's on there? If you sign in, what do you have access to?
So it's an online service and it's brilliant because what it's providing is young people and young adults with extra choice when it comes to their mental health and wellbeing. We know there's many fantastic services out there, but what we provide is something that is online on a safe space where young people and young adults can access that at their fingertips from the comfort of their own homes. So what you would expect from Kooth, first of all, you do have to sign up and you do have to create an account, but that's entirely free. It doesn't cost a thing. But once you're signed in, there's many features you can expect. So we do provide counselling, and that's through a live chat, which I would like to describe as if you imagine like a WhatsApp chat messaging sort of group. It looks a little bit like that. But we also provide an online community support environment where young people and young adults can access support through moderated peer-to-peer discussion boards. We also have an online magazine which is filled with lots of information around mental health, well-being, general health, hobbies and interests. We also have an element of awareness raising on there. So we might be speaking about LGBTQ+ or racism or discrimination. So there's loads on there. But we also have self-help tools. So we've got on there an online journal that young people and young adults can use, a goal setting tool. So there's a real variety of stuff on there. And it's all there to be used however somebody would like to use it.
So could you use, say, the peer-to-peer aspect and not the counselling and vice versa? So you could use the counselling and not the peer-to-peer. It's just whatever you want to access, you can access.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So it's, as I said before, it's about, we know not one size fits for everyone.
Yeah.
And we want to be offering a very person-centred experience when somebody is signing up and they're using Kooth. So while somebody might feel that they need to access the counselling, that's absolutely fine. Whereas another young person or a young adult may find, actually, I don't really feel I need counselling, but I would really like to speak to other young people around my own age in a safe online space. And they can do that. That's absolutely fine. There's so many benefits to come from all of the other features as well.
Definitely.
So it's whatever works for them, really.
It's sort of like managing your own well-being, isn't it, in your own little specified area where you can log on and just, I like the goal setting thing, that sounds good, and all of that. So when you do talk to a counsellor, these are qualified, counsellors who are on the other end of the line, who can chat you through any issues or problems and things like that.
So there's a video that we have, and hopefully people can go off and have a look at some of the videos. There's some on the internet, but you can find them at www.koothplc.com. But what we always say in that one is, although we're a digital service, the people that work at Kooth are not. They are real people. All of our counsellors are really experienced, trained, friendly people. So they're real people that young people and young adults are talking to. And we have a great team there ready to support people, and they're all trained accredited under the BACP, which stands for British Association of Counselling and Psychotherapy.
That's fab, that's great. And is there any sort of crisis support, if you feel that you were, at risk or at danger and you did feel like you were at that crisis point, is there anything on there for people, say, in those circumstances?
So it's important to really make it clear that we're not a crisis service. Really, we're designed to act as a low-level early intervention service. However, saying that, we do get all sorts of young people and young adults coming onto Kooth to use it. So if somebody felt that they were in a crisis, we always actually have a lot of information on there around what to do in a crisis. We'll signpost young people and young adults to other organisations such as Samaritans or the police. But we also know how to hold a young person or a young adult in a crisis, and we will support them. We have a safeguarding team. We also have a very trained and experienced clinical team, as I mentioned, and they will do what they can to support that person. If we felt that they maybe felt that we felt that they were in a situation of high risk or danger, as well as being in a crisis, then although it's anonymous, we can work with that young person or young adult to suggest that they could share their personal information with us, so that we can make sure the right organisations and services are also supporting them as well, which is really important.
Definitely. That's great. That's really good to know. So is there any aspect of the site that you think more people should know about? Sort of like, what's something that you think is really useful that, a lot of people could use? Is there any certain things that is sort of your favourite part of it that you think is really useful?
There's many parts of it really that are brilliant. I think for any of our young Kooth users, we have got a wellbeing activity hub on there, which I didn't actually mention earlier on within the features. That's brilliant. It's filled with lots of different activities that young people can try out. There's a real variety on there. It could be that somebody wants to try an activity out that maybe relates to a breathing technique. So it's actually teaching a young person or a young adult maybe a new coping technique that they didn't know before. We also have create your own self-care box on there. So that's a lovely activity to try out, and it really gives anybody that's using Kooth those ideas and inspiration to go off and look after their own well-being as well, which is really, really important. So that's a lovely part of the site. Also, as you mentioned, the goal setting, that's really, really good. And that's really about making sure somebody's got a very visual tool where they perhaps can make little lifestyle changes. It could be that it doesn't have to be anything huge. And that's what we always say. When somebody wants to set their own goals, it could be something that seems small, but it really, really isn't to that person. It could be that they just want to take their dog out 2 times a week and get a little bit of exercise, and maybe they haven't done that in a long, long time because they've lost their confidence or for whatever reason. So that's such an important part of the site. We also have on there the peer-to-peer discussion rooms, which I mentioned earlier on, and I did touch upon those categories, but really being able to highlight now just the impact of that. So we've got young people and young adults on there that might be connecting over a whole range of things. So it could be that a young person reaches out and they say, you know, I'm autistic, is anybody else on here that's autistic? And then we see them all connecting with each other. Sometimes we get young adults on there that are talking about sort of exams. They may be stressed, which is something that is going on right now. It's exam season.
It is.
So it may be that they're reaching out to other young people to say, you know, I'm not coping. Has anyone else been through this? You know, how did you prepare for your exams? And we see those types of conversations happening. So there's it has such an impact on people.
Yeah,
it
definitely.
really does.
And I think that's the key point, isn't it? It's the little things with the goal set, and it's the little things that add up that amount to sort of like more positive well-being. And that's something that we try and do here, is sort of like the resilience work. So not letting it reach crisis point as much as you can do. And I think those sorts of tools are great for managing your well-being day to day, which all mount up. And it might, like you said, it might seem little, it might seem like small steps, but it all adds up and it all helps you overall.
Yeah, exactly. And I think there's something really good at having an online platform where all of those tools and ideas are all there in one space. It's that online wellbeing community, as you say, where they can really sort of focus on just them and their mental well-being, which is really important.
Definitely. One of my questions was going to be, why does it work? What is it about it that you think sort of has let it take off? And obviously the online aspect of it being with sort of younger people that have grown up with technology. And do you think it's sort of like that familiarity of it being online and it's more accessible?
Yeah, I think with Kooth, we're now supporting like young people right across the country. On average, we get around 4,000 logins a day. And that's huge. However, it is sad because it shows there's that real need. But I think the reason why it's taken off is perhaps because you're right, young people and young adults are much more confident and able to use digital technology for their own health and care and their well-being, because we all live with those devices now. They're used on a daily basis, but also because it's anonymous. And that's why as well, because people can reach out without that fear of judgment. They can reach out, really open up and express themselves. Nobody knows who they are. And that's so important, because what we find is a lot of young people or young adults that come and use Kooth are often people that haven't engaged with face-to-face services yet because they're not confident to. And we know from our data, those young people, young adults that haven't engaged with face-to-face services, 77% of them will go on to do that after using Kooth.
That's brilliant.
It is really about building that confidence in people as well.
Definitely. And I think, as sad as it is, there is still the stigma attached to accessing services, and you know, with it being anonymous, no one has to know that it's you, and it's sort of that protecting your identity. And so I think we should talk a little bit about you. So what is your role within Kooth? What's your title and what do you do for Kooth?
So I'm an engagement lead. So I'm not a clinician and I don't have a clinical background. However, as an engagement lead, it is a really important part of Kooth, because our responsibility as engagement leads is to work within education settings, work within organisations that support young people and young adults, and really make sure that we can ensure that people know about Kooth. We deliver assemblies, awareness sessions. We also then deliver the more formal presentations to professionals right across the health and social care and voluntary and community sector. So it's really about embedding Kooth and making sure everybody in Sunderland City is aware of it. And that's something I do on a day-to-day basis. So what I would kind of really say is, as the local engagement lead for Sunderland, is if anybody's listening and they would like us to come and speak to a group of young people or young adults, or even a group of parent carers to tell them about Kooth, you know, we're very up for those invitations. We would always do our best to get to things and to try and work with somebody to meet their needs. But we also try and make sure as engagement leads that information about Kooth is being shared in the right places as well locally. So that could be I'm working with somebody to make sure something goes in a newsletter, or it could be like what I'm doing now with you, Neve, making sure I can come and do a podcast with you. So that's really what I do in a nutshell. That's my role.
Definitely. And what is your favourite part of the role? What do you think is rewarding about doing what you do?
I think for me, and I got asked this question when I joined Kooth, why did you want to join Kooth? And for me, it's about feeling like I'm making a difference. I'm on the front line, making sure people know about a really fantastic mental health service that is out there, and ensuring that people can access the support that is available. I think previously, over the years, I have worked in many different roles, and I've heard many stories of people not really knowing where to go for help when it comes to their mental health and wellbeing. So I really wanted to be in a job role where I could make a difference and change that, I guess, in a little way.
Definitely.
And that's why I joined.
So for our listeners, how does it work sort of behind the scenes? I know you said you've got like a team of clinicians, a safeguarding team and things like that, but how does it work sort of like behind the digital screen, if you will?
Okay, so it's really sort of nobody ever sees this side, but it's a really good question, because how does it all work? So behind the scenes, the company's huge. We have I think around 500 staff members nationally. So we've got the clinicians, which are the ones that deliver the counselling. We've got the safeguarding team that are on hand to support any staff member with safeguarding concerns. We've also got within our teams the marketing and content team and the moderators, and their marketing are responsible for the I guess creation of digital graphics. It could be some of our campaigns. So I know that they've just been busy putting together everything for Mental Health Awareness Week, which is coming up in a couple of weeks. Their work is fantastic. We've got many fantastic designs of sort of posters, graphics, content that can be used online and offline because of the marketing team. The content team are the ones that pull together the details and all of the stuff that takes place within our online magazine, but also they design our live forums and discussion boards that take place on a monthly basis. So whilst there's all of the features and the benefits of using the Kooth platform, the content team are putting on, I guess, a monthly programme of activities that have different topics to engage people. So they're doing that as well. And the moderators, they're the ones that keep everything online safe. So whilst people can have those conversations in peer-to-peer discussion rooms, they have to be checked, because we have to make sure nobody's at risk when they're using Kooth. So the moderators are the eyes, if you like, of everything, and they're making sure it's kept safe. And then we've got our business development team, all of our managers. So without anybody, you know, at Kooth, we really wouldn't be able to do what we do. So we've also got our sort of customer relationship managers, which are responsible for those relationships with the commissioners that provide us with the money to make sure that Kooth is free for everybody to use. But as in for managing the platform, we've got behind the scenes a case management system. So for every user that comes and uses Kooth, nobody can see this part, only we can, but their profile will come along with like a little bit of a profile account that we can see. And the information that they share with us or anything about their counselling appointments is captured on that case management system. And that means our clinical team can manage all of the people that are using Kooth in a safe and effective way because of that case management system. But it's encrypted as well. Before I forget them, we also have a data and insight team. They're the ones that make sure that data and all of that rich information that we collect can inform the service. And they pull together many interesting national reports as well. They've just launched one on stress, which is quite an interesting read. And another team that I haven't mentioned, I feel like I don't want to leave anyone, is the participation team. So we've got a participation team, and we've also got what we call at Kooth a YLT, which is our youth leadership team, which is made up of young service users that can have a say in the decision making at Kooth, and they can be involved with all aspects of Kooth as well. So we've also got that happening behind the scenes too, which sometimes surprises people.
Yeah, I think that's really important though, to have young people leading, because they know what young people want, and it's no good sort of adults saying, oh, this is what they might want, but if you've got the actual team there, they can sort of lead where it goes.
It's really important, I think, that service user voice, that voice of any person that's using a health and care service, absolutely has to have a say. And I think that's why participation team at Kooth is really, really valuable. And I'm surprised I left them at the end, actually. There's so much to remember.
But I think it's important as well for like our listeners to know that it's not a robot. It's not just a website. There are people on the other end of it. And I think, I don't know if that's sort of a preconception that some people might have, that if it's online, it's just a digitalised sort of response that you get. But knowing that it's a qualified counsellor on the end of the line, there's people there moderating it, not just robots moderating. It's real people. I think that's really, really important to highlight.
Yeah, exactly. But it's really good you've asked, because I've been able to really get that across, which is important.
Yeah, so. Definitely. Do you think there's any barriers to young people accessing the service? Anything that is cropped up that you think, oh, we need to tackle that because people have this conception of it? Or
I think it can vary really from area to area in terms of what local barriers might look like. But I think it's really, sometimes it is just about making sure we can get to some of the young people and the young adults. So it can be difficult sometimes when, say, we're working with sort of young people and young adults from ethnic communities. Sometimes that can be a bit of a barrier. So there is that aspect of Kooth that whilst it's a digital service and we try and make it as accessible for everybody, anybody from an ethnic community that doesn't have, I guess, a basic level of English speaking wouldn't be able to use Kooth, unfortunately. So there is some exceptions to using the platform. But what we'll always say is, although we know there is some barriers there for certain people, if they do try and use Kooth and we can clearly see that they're not able to use it for whatever reason, there's a barrier, our clinical team are very they're able to spot that, and they'll always signpost to local services. So, you know, that behind the scenes question you asked me earlier, behind the scenes as well, on the sort of system that the clinical team use, we've also got a database full of local provision. So all of the information about local services. So whilst our clinical team are national, if they are working with somebody from Sunderland and they need to signpost them to another service, they have got access to like a database of organisations there. So
you won't just be left with nothing.
No, exactly. And that's really important.
Definitely. That could be the worst thing, couldn't it? But as long as they've got that information there to signpost, I think that's brilliant. Is there anything else that you want to let our listeners know? Anything important to round off?
I think rounding off on just a couple of key things that are going on at the moment. So I mentioned it before about exam season, and we know there is many 15 to 16-year-olds out there that will be waiting for their GCSE results, but then also there is the older, younger adults that might be waiting for university degrees to come through, and results day. It's huge. And the pressure that comes with that and the emotional impact is huge as well. So it's really making sure that if somebody feels they need to reach out to do that, Kooth is an option for them in Sunderland. It may be that they feel that they need to have a chat with somebody, or as we've already discussed, it could be they just want to vent to somebody their own age on an online platform that's safe about what they're going through. Then absolutely come and use the platform. We've also got a lot of support on there around exams, and also those expectations, not to put so much pressure on yourself, and how to deal with the stress and anxiety that comes along with it. So it's really just reiterating that all of that content's there at their fingertips, and hopefully they can go and have a look at it, especially right now. And then also of our 18 to 25-year-olds in Sunderland City, I really wanted to get the message across that we're there for them to use. The platform has been designed to meet the needs of young adults as well. And we know for that age group in particular, there is so many life decisions to be made at that point in time. It could be somebody is about to go off to university and they're sat right now having to think about their first student accommodation that they're going to be picking and moving away from home for the first time. That's huge. Or it could be somebody is actually going to take that step to apply for their first job. Or they might be tackling with actually doing that and actually finding that very, very hard, and they're in a position where they're unemployed. There's so many things the 18 to 25-year-olds are going through, or maybe sort of struggling with, that they might find it really helpful reaching out to Kooth and speaking to our online team. But also benefiting from all of that rich information and support that's on there, because there's a lot of information on there, a lot of advice around all sorts of different topics. They'll definitely be able to find information around the things that I've just mentioned. So they're sort of the really two important things. I think I didn't mention it throughout, but just mentioning the accessibility of the counselling. Because the service is there to offer counselling, and it's important to mention that if somebody is already using another service in Sunderland and they're receiving counselling, we wouldn't at that time offer them counselling because we don't duplicate what other services are doing. But they can still sign up and use Kooth because they can benefit from the online community, all of the information. They can still have a low-level wellbeing chat with the team. There's nothing stopping them from doing that at any point. We just wouldn't offer them the counselling straight away. But the counselling is there from Monday to Friday, 12 lunchtime till 10 o'clock at night, and on the weekends from 6 o'clock till 10 o'clock at night. And that's Monday to Friday. And Saturday and Sunday, and that's 365 days a year. So another huge thing that is coming up around the corner is the summer holidays. So whilst for a lot of young people and young adults, their support network does sometimes come from their education setting, comes from school. So when they're in the summer holidays, if they feel that they are needing a little bit of support, we are still there, and we're still open, we don't shut. And also the fact that they could speak to a counsellor at, say, 8-9 o'clock in the evening is really important for any age, but in particularly younger people and young adults. It tends to be a time of the day where they're at home on their own, they're not spending any time with their friends, they're not at school, and that's when worries start to play on people's minds, and they might need to reach out. So the fact that Kooth is there till that time is absolutely brilliant.
Yeah, it definitely is. Just one more question, just from what you've said. Is there any thresholds or waiting lists or anything like that? So if you were interested in the counselling from Kooth, is there a waiting list?
Yeah, so we don't have any thresholds or waiting lists. So if somebody signs up to use Kooth, they would be able to join the live chat queue on the same day. Where the waiting comes in is waiting in the live chat queue. So they do try to get to people within minutes, but we have to expect that there is some evenings that are a little bit busier than others. So sometimes it could take up to an hour. But what we always say is, while somebody's waiting in the live chat queue, there is all of the articles, all of the online community offer that they can explore and use. They'd always get a notification from the team when they're ready for their chat, and then they can join their conversation once they get that, I guess, notification ping through. We've also got access to that team 24/7 through a messaging part of the service as well. So whilst the live counsellors go offline, in between those times I've mentioned, if somebody logs in and they really need to get something off their chest, they can always send a message through the messaging function, and that goes to them, and our team will respond within 24 hours as well. But when they do join the live chat queue and they have that first chat, if it's the first chat they've ever had, there is an element of up to sort of 3 assessment sessions that take place, because we have to make sure we understand why somebody's using Kooth.
Yeah.
What are their needs? Are there any concerns that they need to tell us? So we can build a picture so that we can then best support them.
Yeah.
So whilst they will speak to somebody sort of as soon as they start using Kooth, it might not be that they get into those structured book counselling appointments until after a few chats, for instance.
That's brilliant. So after that, is it sort of like appointment style? So would it be the same time every week, for instance, or is it just when you need it as and when, or can you set up those sort of like weekly, monthly appointments?
I think it's a very person-centred approach, as I mentioned before. So although you can have the structured appointments put in place, it could be actually somebody logs in, they join a chat queue, they speak to our team once in that month. They might not log in again and do that again until 3 months down the line. Yeah. That's absolutely fine as well. If that's how somebody wants to use the service, then they can. It's very flexible. So it can be a drop-in approach to it. So if somebody just wants to drop in when they feel they need it, then that's okay. But if they need the more structured booked appointments, which are once a week for an hour with the named counsellor, which are usually in blocks of 6, we then review, and if we need to, we'll put more in place. It can be long-term ongoing support as well. That's
brilliant. It really is just like real counselling, just digital. I didn't realise how sort of structured and you know, the 6-week appointment thing, we obviously follow that here, and it really is great having a real person on the other end, which is, it just is brilliant. Is there anything else you want to?
I think that's everything. I feel like I've covered all of the bits that I wanted to, and it's really just hopefully people get in touch with me if they want us to come and talk to them, or if they want any information, if they'd like a Kooth poster to put up somewhere, please let me know. I'm really happy for people to do that. And if you want to share my email address anywhere, then please do.
So where do people find you?
Oh, okay. So my email address is jaustin@kooth.com. So that's to get through to me directly as of the local engagement lead for Sunderland, to order things like posters, cards, or to arrange for me to come and do an awareness session or a presentation or anything like that.
Definitely. And do Kooth sort of nationally have a Facebook, an Instagram, a Twitter? What are the handles?
So the national website, I mentioned it right at the beginning, but it's www.koothplc.com. There is a national Facebook page, Instagram page, and a Twitter page. And they also have a Spotify playlist. And they're also on Apple and Spotify as well with their podcasts too. So go and have a check that out to anyone that's listening.
Definitely. That's brilliant. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us. It's a pleasure.
Thank you for listening to this episode. Find Kooth on Facebook, Instagram and Twitter, or at www.koothplc.com. Don't forget you can find us, Sunderland Mind, on Facebook at @MindSunderland, or on Twitter, Instagram and YouTube at Sunderland Mind. If you'd like to be featured on the podcast as a guest, please don't hesitate to get in touch by emailing me at neve.thornton@sunderlandmind.co.uk. Thank you again for listening.